Are you struggling in your faith? Are you pretending you're happy but stuck in a spiritual rut? Are you tired of listening to famous pastors and preachers who make it sound so easy? Welcome to Broken Catholic, the #1 Protestant and Catholic voice in America. I talk about the important things that nobody else is talking about, like how to align with God's plan for your life, because I believe this is where 90% of Christians get stuck. And I tackle the negative self-talk that we all secretly struggle with but won't admit. My guests are brave Protestants and Catholics who share their struggles, their fears, and their daily holy habits that help them win in their spiritual lives. I'm your host, your coach, your friend, Joseph Warren. I'm also a broken Catholic and former atheist, and a spiritual coach to Christian business owners and CEOs who are married with children. This show was created for you, the broken Catholic who's pushing to get your spouse, your kids, and yourself to heaven. Wherever you are in your spiritual journey, you're just one surrender prayer away. Today, my featured guest is Joe Condit. He's an entrepreneur from a big Catholic family, grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio. He is the founder of CatholicSpeakers.com. If you're in the Catholic space, you've probably heard of this. Maybe you get their emails in your inbox, CatholicSpeakers.com, the largest Catholic-focused speaking agency and network in the world, utilized by event organizers all over the globe to book the best faith-based speakers for events. Now, as a response to COVID-19, he founded InspireWord.com, a live broadcast via social media platforms consisting of 30-minute interviews with Christian world leaders. Its goal is to freely spread a faith-based message of hope and encouragement for all that watch. And boy, oh boy, BC Nation, do we need that right now. I know some of you right now are struggling deeply with this instability, this lack of control of everything around you that you thought you had control over. So we need encouragement. Condit is a serial entrepreneur with investments and holdings in an array of companies ranging across various industries, including food service, precious metals, real estate, technology, and media and marketing. He was awarded the Business Award 40 Under 40 in 2011 and has been nationally recognized as a key business influencer in several of the industries he is involved with. Condit was born and raised in Cincinnati, Ohio, and hails from Austin, Texas. Joe Condit, thank you for being on Broken Catholic today. Go ahead and fill in some of the gaps in that intro, would you?
Yeah, it sounds like you covered it pretty well, Joseph. Thanks for having me on. It's a real pleasure for you to take the time to actually have me on your podcast, and congrats on all the success you've had with it. And you know, you're in the spiritual battle. We're all just trying to bring souls closer to Christ, and that's what it's all about. But yeah, the one thing I love to focus on, there's two things I tell people. I brag about my friends and I brag about my family. And that's the only thing you'll ever hear me brag about. I come from great stock. You know, my family infused the Catholic faith into me since birth. And, I have the typical reversion story, kind of went on to college, fell away for a long time, experiencing the world, and then got into business, got a couple lucky breaks, got involved with some really smart people. And, as an effort to try and give back in my own way to what God blessed me with at a very young age, I started CatholicSpeakers.com, which then was known as CMGBooking.com. We bought Catholic Speakers from an arm and an affiliate of Lighthouse Catholic Media, and then became and was on the track to become the largest Catholic speaking focused network in the world, which we are now today. So by the grace of God, I take no personal achievement there. I believe God really has had his hand on it the entire time. My middle sister, I'm one of 6 kids. My middle sister, you are too? Yeah, we kind of probably felt that right when we first started talking.
That's right.
You immediately got to learn people and learn how to deal with them right out of the gate, right? So you can always tell people from a big family, which is the way God intended it. But my middle sister, Christina, started speaking as a high schooler to other high schoolers about self-esteem, respecting yourself, purity, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I realized that she needed some back office help at some point as she grew and grew and became more popular. And then I thought there's got to be a lot more people like her out there. Well, lo and behold, fast forward, it's 14 years ago about. Today, we're now representing over 400 Christinas, on our way to 500 very quickly with how many people are in our hopper trying to get in the group. So it's just been an incredible experience, and then fast forward to the end of the movie and get into whatever you want to talk about. As a response to COVID-19, we started an inspireword.com, an Inspire series to inspire people and just give them messages of faith, messages of hope during these really weird times, where folks are facing challenges where literally 3 months ago they had no idea what they'd be facing, losing jobs or what have you. So we're bringing on a lot of faith-based leaders like yourself as a guest, and just coming on and giving real FaceTime style personal stories, and people are just absolutely loving it. And and we've captured a global audience now in less than 2 months after we started it. So it's been very, very beneficial.
Well, I think you covered the whole story, so I think we're done here. I think that was 2 minutes. Well done.
That's what you get for having an Irish Italian on.
Yeah, bring on an Irish Italian and he steals your show. That's just how it happens. Okay. So, Joe, let's dig in a little bit here, because it really comes down to what has God been doing in your life along the way. And you spoke real briefly about reversion and how you were raised in a good Catholic home, and then you did the college track and maybe pulled away. Walk us through that story. Take us back there just for a moment. We won't spend that long there, but I think that's an important ingredient in your life, in your spiritual journey. So Sure. Paint us a picture of that. What happened?
Well, I had a very interesting upbringing, and Joseph, the fact that you have given me the opportunity to be on your show, I'm not going to hold back. I'm happy to talk about. Folks would be very interested to know that, from kindergarten all the way through ninth grade, I was at the school I attended, given the ability to attend Mass every single day. I also grew up serving Latin Mass. So the Mass that served the church for 500 years before it was changed. So I was hammered in, from a military style, the Catholic faith, which is now I know why the church does that. It's the beauty of it, because when you go out into the real world, like I did, ended up going to a public university in Ohio called Miami of Ohio, very, very well respected university from an academic standpoint, but obviously not much focus on the Catholic faith or religion in general. So going there, I just became like, the normal story of most dudes. Your faith starts falling behind on a priority. You may or may not make it to church on Sunday. You're out just really focused on trying to, how can I figure out how to become the next Bill Gates, and you kind of, as a young kid, you're in your 20s, late teens, early 20s, you're just trying to focus on what the world tells you is going to make you happy. So there took several different instances that kind of made me revert back to my faith. The first one was, like I was discussing, my sister Christina. Well, that wasn't the first one. That was actually the kind of simultaneous. My sister Christina started talking and speaking, and she inspired me to kind of take a look at the faith again. But really what happened to me was, long story short, the first business I started was in off-campus real estate. And I was very lucky to get a investment from a well-known investor / businessman during that time. And we ended up coming up against what allegedly was the largest Ponzi scheme in American business history, only to be beat by Bernie Madoff 2 months later. So with that happening, I got a call from the FBI and CIA at the same time, telling me that the United States of America is suing the group that I was a part of. And if I lie to them, they will get so deep into my life that they will repo that Pepsi I bought last year. So not only did I lose everything, but I was also looking at jail time, because as an executive and officer of the company I had, my position was going to be the same as everyone else's. Oh, I didn't know that was happening. How many times do you hear CEOs say that? Oh, I didn't know my people were doing that. Too bad, kid. Your money was being moved illegally. You're going to jail. So luckily, we weren't a part, our money, our funds were not a part of it. And now, to give you a backstory, our company was part of a conglomerate that I think owned over 150 companies at its peak. And what had happened when all my bank accounts were frozen is it forced me to go back to live with my father. And lo and behold, Joe had to pretend he was going to church the entire time. Now living with my good Catholic father and guy who has taught me to have morals, a guy who's taught me to stand for truth no matter what, a guy who has taught me just many things. His whole life has been dedicated to the church and God, and and everything worldly second. So in doing so, I started going back to church, started reading, and it was an 8-month period where we were in this incredible investigation. And I realized now, looking back, that was God's way of giving everything to a kid and then taking it away right away and saying, you're just not doing what I intended with. And that really, really made me grow up very quickly. I mean, I can't tell you, when you're getting letters at your home saying the United States of America versus you, it captures you, and you never forget something like that. And
so, Joe, I'd like to jump in right there. And
yeah,
what was going on the inside spiritually in your relationship with God at that point in your life? Now, I get the outward situation. You're at home. You're completely in a situation that's outside of your control. You're getting the letters from the United States government. You're with dad, right? You're kind of forced back into church life. But what was happening in your relationship on the inside? Were there any angry prayers at God? Why is this happening? Take us on the inside.
Yeah, no, I started realizing that I just lost all sight of and focus on what this world is about. And this world is about getting to heaven and being a good servant for Christ as you're on earth. And, I'm in my early 20s. I mean, that's why when I say this, I want to speak to the young entrepreneurs, female, male, whoever in their early 20s. Don't lose focus on what's important, and that's your faith. That's basically, I just got obsessed with, I just want to do what the world tells me is going to make me happy, make $1 million, and I'll be the happiest guy in the world. Well, it's just, you lose your spiritual focus along the way. None of it's worth anything. And it's all very, it can be taken away overnight, like mine was. So inside, I just literally just became lazy, and, was going to church every now and then. And it just, my church or my focus was business. And in hindsight, it was just a terrible mistake to, prioritize things in that nature.
Mm. I mean, there's so many similarities to my own story here, but this isn't about me. This is about you. So I really get where you were at, and, just what the world promises is all the shiny stuff that supposedly is going to make us happy. And then for a few of us, we chase it, and we're ruthless in our pursuit of it, and we get it. And we get to this place of, I got it. Why am I still miserable? Why am I unhappy? Why am I still lonely? Mm-hmm. What did you do with those types of feelings at that point?
I made the mistake of trying to dig deeper in them. And I think that's a mistake that a lot of people make. They think, well, this enough isn't enough. I need more. I got to keep going. I got to keep hammering home. I got to stay focused. It's right there. I see it. And when you're chasing that kind of worldly pleasure, it's never there. You'll never have enough. You'll never reach a point. Have you ever heard anybody say, oh, I got to figure it out, I'm the happiest person in the world? No, it's people that have made their spirituality, their faith, their Christianity, the focus of their life. And what I found is they have peace. They have calmness about them. They still have as many problems as the next person, but I figured the success in life, or with my experience so far, is being able to deal with hardship and being able to stay calm and trusting in God during those times. We're all gonna experience them. Nobody on this earth doesn't have problems, but it's those that have mastered prayer and being able to stay in their mind with God when they're going through those hard times. Then the good times are even better, because life's like a roller coaster. It's literally, it's nobody's on top at all times. Nobody's on bottom at all times. All we can do is try and do the will of God, from what I learned from all those experiences. And as long as you're on his path to do his will, at the best of your ability, he'll steer you in the right direction.
Praise God for that. So let's bring it back to present day. And here you are. You find yourself, you're 38 years old. You're running the largest Catholic speaking agency in the world. You just started this Inspire Word, really reaching people in their pain right now during COVID-19. How do you feel God moving in your life right now? Where is he showing up? Where are you cooperating with him?
We all can cooperate with him more. That's one to my message about the worldly, that enough isn't enough. Well, with God also, enough is never enough. We should always strive to serve him better, serve him more, work hard at it. Like when we were kids trying to be the next, Michael Jordan or whatever your dream was, you worked at it every day, I see God working most recently in the Inspire Word series we started. The phone calls I've made, it's been one of the easiest projects in my life, actually, to get a hold of these faith-based leaders or the relationships we already have who we represent speaking, and book them for speaking. Everyone has just said yes. And it was kind of a thought in my head, like, man, this is way easier than I anticipated, the amount of, first of all, the caliber of guests we've had on. And then secondly, the messages that come out during it. We've had one of the more prominent, one that sticks out of my mind was one of the more prominent women's speakers across the country, Teresa Tomeo. She's also the, an international, who she is, maybe, probably internationally acclaimed author, public speaker, you name it. She came on Inspire Word the same day she buried her mother. And she just gave this unbelievable testimony where she ended up crying, and you could just tell through the feed, because we do every interview live. So it allows people to interact with their favorite public figure. You can just tell through the feed, people were also probably crying. And I mean, it was just unbelievable. And that's why we did it, to inspire folks that, look, no matter how hard it gets, no matter how much you're hurting, God is there. And that's when you got to lean on him more. Recently, I was on a show where someone gave me a great quote. I can't remember which one it was, but they said to me, lean on Christ so hard that if he moves, you fall. And that stuck with me.
I know you've had people like Chris Stefanik on. I had him on the show as well. He's become a good friend, and like you said, Teresa Tomeo. And what do you see in these individuals that hit this height of success? And it's in the Catholic space, yet you see them struggling with the same thing that people in not their space are struggling with. What do you see as the commonality across all of it that we're all like struggling with right now? What's that big pain point?
It's a spiritual battle. Nobody is immune to it. And it's a great question too, Joseph, because there's a couple examples that come to mind. One of which, and I can talk about it because it's public. He made a video about it. Father Leo Patalinghug. I've worked with Father and booking his speaking. We represent him at CatholicSpeakers.com for probably over 13 years, probably 12, 11, years around there. He recently had a podcast episode like this where it didn't go as well, didn't go as planned. And he ended up saying some things that he wished he didn't say. And he came out afterwards and, gave a public video about talking about what had happened. And I just thought that was so incredible to see a priest who we all admire. Those are our generals, our spiritual leaders, a priest who showed that, hey, we're human as well. And sometimes we mess up. But when we mess up, we have to be Christ-like and, admit it and then address it and make it better. And, that's one thing where I kind of found that's a great example of the commonality that the who downstairs, I don't speak his name, does not want stuff like this happening, what you're doing right now. He has one goal. He doesn't even sleep probably. You have to remember he's the smartest thing God created according to our teachings, right? And he's not waking up every day at how am I going to do another startup or how do I make the next $1 million? Like his focus is getting souls to hell, plain and simple. He's only got a matter of time, and we all know how this is going to end. So he's going to tempt you with everything that he gets at you. Now, I'll get real deep with you if you want to, because I don't care. I know a lot of people are going to watch this, but man, that guy runs a Catholic Speakers Bureau. I'm not perfect. I'm kind of a dork. I've never done any drugs. I've never even really smoked weed, believe it or not. But my temptation through life has been like any dude's, what is the most beautiful thing on earth that God created? Girls. So going through college and, being a single person, it's a challenge out there. I mean, everywhere you turn around, the who is trying to tempt both genders, both sides of the coin on, not living out the way Christ has laid the blueprint for us to live. So There's a lot of ways to combat that. There's a lot of incredible people out there. Jason Everett, we just had on, he talks about purity and, dating and all that. So if anyone is struggling with that, please go and buy his books. And of course, you can find all kind of resources on catholicspeakers.com with speakers. But I just see a commonality of spiritual battle. No one's immune to it. And the who knows our weaknesses, and he tries to hit you where it hurts.
I know for me personally, I just got married last year.
Congratulations.
Thank you, brother. We just had our first daughter. God blessed us on wedding night. We conceived her. And, I'm 44 years old. I've had a lot of years of screw ups. I've had a lot of years of poor decision making, a lot of rebellion from God's best for me. So I get what you're saying right now. And
99% of guys do, right? They do.
Right. I get the single life. It was a year ago, like just for perspective. And I get how vastly different my life looks today from just a year ago. And it all happened through what I call spiritual surrender. And it was me taking all the things I was trying to control in my life, both external and internal, all the things I'm working on, right? Guys love to say that, I'm working on it, or I need to work on it. And that was the very thing that was causing all the problems, was I was trying to fix it rather than surrender it to God. Speak to us about that in your own life. Where have you had to spiritually surrender to God in order to have that fruitfulness of God come through you?
That's a great question. I mean, it's wow. I had to really humble myself and realize that, I go to a Monsignor. I'm in Austin, Texas. And why I say that, I apologize, because apparently the sun has shifted as the summer has gone on. So you can see it all over my face. I go to a Monsignor in San Antonio he's become my confessor. Incredible priest. Was a war priest. And I realized I started confessing the same sins every time I go see him. So I had to challenge myself, Joe, are you really sorry about what you're doing here? And talk to him about it. And he gave me a lot of the old Catholic weapons, which I believe have been lost. I saw one of the questions that we may discuss today, the division and why people are divided. And I think it starts with leadership, just like any company. I think the Catholic Church is failing itself. Now, specifically Catholic, of course, I want to talk about Christianity in general, but as a Catholic, where this relates to me is your question, I had to get back to the basics, and that's how I surrendered. What are the basics? Saying the rosary every day. I mean, when was the last time you heard that at the pulpit? Or even more, wearing your scapular, which Our Lady gave. Two things when little Francisco, when Our Lady appeared at Fatima, he asked, how do I get to heaven? How do I get to heaven? You know what she said? Do you know what her response was?
Not off the top of my head.
It was, pray the rosary and wear your scapular. Our Blessed Mother, right? The Mother of God, the human being God the Almighty chose to give birth to Christ, didn't say, go to mass or make sure you make it church, even though that's also required. But and it isn't like she forgot that, like she was ascending back into heaven. Oh, I forgot to tell him to go to mass. No, she knew that there was going to be spiritual battles like this that we're talking about. And the thing that you have access to at all times, because, the church has gone through persecution forever, where the priests weren't available or sacraments weren't available. Say your rosary, wear your scapular. And those are the two things my grandmother, both my grandmothers actually always taught us kids growing up. And when I got back to those practices, that surrender to make time for those things, that's when I started seeing an improvement in my spiritual life. And it's just like lifting weights. You can't go to the gym and just stand there and look around and be like, all right, I'm here. No, you actually got to lift some weights, do violence on your body to break it down, and then it builds back stronger. So when it comes to surrender, I had to go back to the basics. And that's the beauty of the faith. Like, Christ didn't make it hard. The truth is hard. Few will accept it, and few will enter the gates. And that haunts me. But he made it very easy to understand. He made the blueprint. And, those two practices, of which I could talk about for forever, were how I surrendered.
Thank you for sharing those. And like you said, it's simple. It's not easy. so many of us, especially us men, I think we look at those Mary type weapons and we don't see strength in that. We think to ourselves, that's not going to work. I got to work. I got to do it. I got to fix it. I got to stop my porn addiction. I got to go fix my marriage or fix my wife or fix my kids or fix my finances. We get stuck in this self-reliance, I think, rather than God reliance.
Mm-hmm.
How did you, first off, did you wrestle with that, what I'm talking about, before you made that shift and that surrender? And how did you make that transition? How did you let go and just trust that these Mary weapons are going to actually work?
Yeah, and it's something you can't explain. You have to just do it, because if you ask me to try and explain to you how it's affected me, all I can say is it helped improve my spiritual life, and things started happening to me. Things were easier to overcome. It's kind of like almost trying to explain to somebody how to ride a bike. Think about that. Legitimately, how would you explain riding a bike? I mean, where the body is holding a bike. I mean, when you think about that, that in and of itself is somewhat of a miracle that anybody can do it. You can't really explain, because you have to go do it. You just have to understand the concept, but then you go do it. And then when you do it, it's something you can't explain. It's the prayer was, again, like the spiritual upbringing or uplifting situation where you had a spiritual weights, like in a weight room, like I said. And, you know, it just, things started becoming easier. The temptations started becoming, avoiding them. First of all, I started understanding better how to just avoid them. How I transitioned into it, to your second question, was I just started really easy. You know, I literally started with 3 Hail Marys a day, because taking time to say a 15-minute rosary by myself was almost impossible. I mean, nobody can really get in cold turkey. You got to kind of get a plan for yourself. You know, whether it's an Our Father a day, just start there, then make it 2, then make it 3. And then I started getting into a full rosary. Now, do I say the rosary daily like I'm supposed to? No, I forget, or I get busy and I make excuses. Still, absolutely. But I'm doing much better than I did when I was at a college. I'll tell you that. And that's what I want to say to, the Joe back in college. Like, keep your faith at your forefront. Keep your faith. Still make sure you make it to church on time, no matter how late you were out the last night, and still make sure that's a priority, because it's only a path to destruction, and only a path to despair and sadness if you don't.
What is the number one piece of feedback that you receive? And I know it's not easy probably to sum it all up into one thing, but try to find the pattern in what you hear from your audiences with Inspire Word. What is that pattern that people are struggling most right now in their spiritual journey?
Yeah, they forget that in the darkest times, that God is there even more. People just really focus on the hardship they're going through at the time, and they think, why is this happening to me? And how could God let this happen if he's an all merciful God and happy? Sorry. We got Amber alerts going off, of course. Again, the who just sending, even though it's a situation where in Inspire Word, people have just accepted that there's a much bigger being than us, that this world there has to be more than just having the problems that we have right here in our face. And the inspirations and the messages that all these speakers give that come on the show really touch everybody in different ways. It's one story, but it touches and they can relate to it. And you can see that everyone is actually in a way has the same struggles, has the same challenges in life, whether that be with their family or addiction or what have you. So that's one thing, a common thread that we found through Inspire Word that has really touched people, along with the fact that we do it live and they can interact with questions, and they also feel like they're on FaceTime with their respective people.
Yeah, their favorite Catholic hero or faith-based hero. Joe, share with us your top 3 spiritual insights, spiritual strategies, spiritual tips for my listener right now, especially if they're they're a beginner when it comes to prayer. What are your 3 top tips or strategies for them to really cultivate that inner spiritual life and really grow deeper in relationship with God? What do you have for them?
Sure. First for Catholicism, number 1, frequent confession as much as you can. I mean, everything we talked about today can be solved with those graces. Again, you can't explain it. When you go to a Catholic priest and confess to God, you're not confessing to the priest, you're confessing to God the Almighty for your sins. That priest, however, since you can't directly talk and you can talk to yourself, that priest acts as like a weight, back to the weight analogy, he acts as a trainer. And he's been trained to give you advice on specific things you're struggling with. So number 1, confession. Number 2, your daily rosary. And number 3, Catholics, you should wear your scapular. So we went through those 3 things. You start doing those 3 practices, you will become extremely fit. Just like if we're talking about physical fitness, if you start running every day, do this, do that, your body will change. So there you have it. It's that simple. Those are the things that work for me. For a broader message to Christianity, pray as much as you possibly can. Ask for God's truth. Ask for his will every day. Start your day saying, God, please, your will be done. Please help me in everything I do, that your will be done. That's a prayer that was hard for me to accept at first, because Joe always wanted what Joe wanted, right? Joe, God, give me this specifically. Give me. Now the prayer is switched to, from 23 to now I'm 38. God, your will has to be done, and just use me to do your will. And I found more serenity, more calmness, and I've really seen a lot more fruit in my life since I've changed to that mindset.
Very powerful. Let's before we get into my favorite part of the show, and first off, I just want to say, Joe, thank you for being so raw, so transparent, just vulnerable with your own struggles.
Sure.
I really, really appreciate when a guest just comes in all out. So we're speaking with Joe Condit. He is the founder of CatholicSpeakers.com, the largest Catholic speaker agency on planet Earth, and also the founder of InspireWord.com, where you can go get encouragement right now during this COVID-19 pandemic we're in. So Joe, welcome to my favorite part of the show. Welcome to the confession round. This is where I'm going to ask you 10 quick fire questions. You'll have about 3 seconds to answer each. Don't overthink it. It's just for fun. Are you ready,
Okay.
sir?
All right, let's do it.
What is your favorite thing about God?
That he's all merciful. Thank God.
What is your least favorite thing about God?
That he gave all these to me as a Catholic, that he gave all these hard rules to follow, but I understand why, because as long as you follow them, your life's better. I wish it was much easier.
I think you just described a good dad, a good father.
Yeah, exactly.
What are you most afraid of?
I am most afraid of losing my soul.
Got that. I believe we're all struggling with something at any given moment of our life. What are you struggling with right now, either professionally or personally?
Well, professionally is not, obviously with the COVID stuff, the Bureau is hemorrhaging money, and that we're having to help events pivot and learn, get through this, because public speaking and public gatherings is not a very popular thing right now. So that's been a huge challenge, but we're getting through it. And actually we've seen a lot of grace out of it, from what, like InspireWord, et cetera. Personally, I'm going to go raw and be honest with you. It's the new way of dating. It's awful. Dating apps it's just it's almost destroyed the way courtship should be done. That's a whole nother segment of your show, but that's been a major, for you that got married, God bless you. You got out of the game at the right time, because it's only getting more horrible.
Okay. Yeah, I really get that, man. And, we could do another whole show on that. Christian dating, like the right way, right? What did you spend way too much time doing in your 20s?
Focusing on strictly business stuff and building whatever the heck I was trying to do with, the various initiatives and organizations I started and got involved in.
So what I'm hearing you say is you were chasing your will rather than God's will.
Well done. See, that's what makes an all-star podcast over the rookies. You wrapped that in perfectly, Joseph.
What secret fear do you have about people?
Say that again.
What secret fear do you have about people?
Trust. Always. People are always going to let you down. I always try and give the benefit of the doubt, as we were supposed to do as Christians, and always, but you're always wondering, what's their angle.
What do you wish you had learned sooner about God?
I wish I would have learned that, that he's not this guy up there just looking at you like, aha, gotcha. Like he is a truly merciful God. And one of the best sayings, I want to say this to all Christians, that I was told by my confessor priest. He said, Joe, people don't go to hell. God doesn't send people to hell. They choose hell.
Man, that is so true. And we don't choose hell in one big swoop. We choose hell one small temptation at a time, don't we?
Right.
What is a new habit you want to form?
And continue to improve my prayer life, which, even though we talked about that is what's kind of saved me, it still needs a lot of work. I still miss my daily prayers, for whatever reason. But that is one habit that if I could master, to make sure I'm consistent and say those prayers every day, it can only better my life every way: business, personal, relationships, you name it.
What's a bad habit you want to change or break?
Well, we would go like spiritual, and then physically. I was an athlete my whole life, and I have not been working out, and that also helps your endorphins and helps you be happier. I've got to change that because I've been working so much lately. And then a habit from a spiritual perspective, not buying into, every time we turn around, there's a girl in a bathing suit, or what have you. Trying to think of whether you're female or male, trying to think of the opposite sex in a more edifying way than just what the world wants from the Hollywood message is just objects.
Can I gift you with something that has really served me and may serve you and all our male listeners right now? When I was struggling with all those physical temptations in my single life, and even now, married, and I have a gorgeous, wife, but then there's still gorgeous women out there, right? So temptation is not something I can control or we can control. What we do with it is within our control. And something that has been so simple for me and has really helped, I say this very easy prayer. It's a 5-second prayer anytime I see that temptation come at me. And I just simply say, Father, I surrender to you my imagination. That's very important, because, see, it's my imagination that takes the temptation and turns it into a sin. When my imagination runs wild with that visual image and turns it into a scene or a fantasy, now I run into that danger. So when I immediately stop it and disrupt it and say, Father, I surrender to you my imagination, he takes it like a good father, and my imagination can't do anything with it. Right. And the thought just passes. And that has really served me well. So I don't know if that's helpful to you or to any of our listeners out there, but I know us guys, we like simple, we like easy. Yeah. That's a 5-second one for a very painful area of our lives.
Joseph, that's a great piece of advice. I mean, it really is. Men are such visual creatures that will help 100% of men every time, everywhere. So I'm thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. All right, back to you. Pick 3 words to describe who you are now.
I hate talking about myself.
Come on now.
I guess I'm trying to be inspirational, trying to do the right thing. So, and trying to be generous.
How would others describe you in 3 words right now? If you're just being real.
Oh, being real? All my friends will tell you, short attention span, huge heart, needs to communicate feelings better. I promised myself I'd be real on this. I'm not in the business of politics. I'm in the business of bringing souls to Christ, Joseph.
There you go. And authentic storytelling is what does that. Pick 3 words to describe who you were before you spiritually surrendered to God.
Oh man, drunk, party boy, and I would say not practicing my faith. Even
Got it.
though those aren't words, I'm sorry, but
That's fine. I forgive you. And last question, Joe, if you could come back to life after you died, look your family and friends in the eye and give them only one piece of advice about everything, life, eternity, all of it, what would you say to them?
I'd tell them to follow God's will. And then also tell them, my grandmother always said that every single one of her 61 grandkids, which I'm the third oldest of, wherever you go, take the Blessed Mother with you. She was an old Italian woman. God bless her soul. And that's what I would tell my friends and family, because I did not in a portion of my life. And it was just not a very, looking back, was not a very fun time, wasn't very fruitful time. Even though I was achieving things in the world, I was more and more unhappy every day, which, it sounded like you have kind of a similar story. So.
For sure. Any final wisdom? What's the one thing you want my listener to know about having a relationship with our loving Father in heaven versus not?
Pray. Know that he is all loving, that, again, that he's not someone, not a being up there that's just wanting to catch you and taking account. Yes, Christ did die for our sins, but it still falls on us to act as Christians on earth and follow his path, which, me personally, I believe is the Catholic Church, is the blueprint he left to get to heaven. I also want to again, encourage folks to follow his will and, just make him the center. Is that my confessor told me, and I'm sure you've heard this before, but if you keep Christ, at the top, and whether it's your significant other, your wife, or yourself, it's a perfect triangle. The closer you both try and reach toward him, the closer you'll come to each other. So that's the simplicity of it.
That's well said, sir. All right. And what's the best way for BC Nation to get in touch with you? Do you have any projects you're working on, or
Absolutely.
You want to invite them into? What do you got?
Very simple. Come to CatholicSpeakers.com if you're looking to book a professional faith-based speaker for your event, any kind, company, parish, church, community, you name it. Go to CatholicSpeakers.com, contact us. We have over 400 Christian speakers to choose from. Also, if your listeners would like to come and join us on InspireWord.com and just look at these messages of faith, and we get the speakers to talk just like I'm talking with you. I realized over 14 years, I get to see these massively well-known public figures behind the scene, but I'm trying to bring what I've gotten to see of these beautiful people when they're off stage or not on camera to a FaceTime style situation where all their viewers and all their followers can now see them in a personal, like they're invited into their living room. So join us on InspireWord.com, sign up on the mailing list. And those are the two projects I'd love for your listeners to keep in mind and come join us at.
So it sounds to me like InspireWord really allows my listener to go behind the curtains with some of the top Christian speakers in the world. Is that correct?
And it's probably gotten so popular because the same thing you're doing with me right now. We're having a real candid conversation, and we ask them, say, hey, tell stories that you've never told before, or be open. And people just love it. It's inspiring. And like you said, they look at you and they think, oh, wow, they've done this in life. But behind closed doors, they're just like me. They struggle with the same stuff. I mean, anybody that doesn't or says they don't, they're lying to you. Plain and simple.
It's so true. So Inspire Word, if I go there, my listener goes there, is there a cost for these live events?
Not at all. Of course, we ask for donations, and a lot of the majority of the donations go to help our speakers and help us keep it going. But there's a donation button, but we don't even push it. I mean, it's more about them seeing the message, and we believe that God will move hearts and inspire, which is what it's all about.
BC Nation, if you were inspired by Joe Condit, go to CatholicSpeakers.com, go to Inspire Word and push that donation button. Go push that button if you can. And really, man, we got to take care of each other. I really do think so. I think we do. And Joe is really lifting up all these speakers and bringing them right to your living room. And he's doing it free of charge to inspire you as you're going through your struggles right now, your pain, your suffering, your personal crises. So why not give back? Maybe it's $1, maybe it's $5. You could do that. Who can't? Come on. So this isn't I'm not pushing for money, but I'm saying, you know what? Let's help each other, man. Why not? All right, Joe. Thank you for being on Broken Catholic, my friend. I wish you God's love, peace, and joy in your life, sir.
God bless you for what you're doing, Joseph. Your podcast is number one for a reason, and I'm just so happy to be a part of it. Thank you so much.
Cheers. BC Nation, you cannot show up authentically in your life without building faith in your business. If you want the business side of that conversation, I have another podcast called First 100K, where I interview successful entrepreneurs about how they made their first $100,000, because that's where I believe 90% of you are stuck and you can't break through. Go to first100k.com to find out how. I'm Joseph Warren. You were made for greatness, so stop being a wuss and start being a winner. Have a blessed day, and I'll see you right back here next week.